Okay, it's been a week. I think I can talk about this now. The small, really small, almost made up sounding possibility that Michael Keaton might actually play Batman again in the long in development solo Flash movie based on the comic book series Flashpoint. No, seriously, what the actual fuck? So before we even think about getting into the whole Michael Keaton might return discussion, I think we do need to talk about where the solo Flash movie is at this point. Because ever since Warner Brothers announced even the idea of doing shared universe movies based on DC characters, the Flash movie in particular has gone through so many different changes and revamps over the past few years that it's really been hard to keep track of. In 2014, actor Ezra Miller was cast to play the Flash in a cameo in the then upcoming Batman vs Superman: Dawn of Justice. After that, he was slated to have a much bigger role in the sequel to that movie, Justice League, and of course, eventually, his own solo Flash movie. From there is when things start to get a little bit complicated. Initially, the duo of Phil Lord and Chris Miller were tapped to write the script, but not direct the movie. In 2015, Seth Grahame-Smith came on board to write it again and eventually direct it. However, in 2016, he left the project and was replaced by Rick Famuyiwa. And things looked to be pretty much on track from here on out until later in 2016 when Famuyiwa just left the project. And since then, it's just been a revolving door of directors. Robert Zemeckis, Matthew Vaughn, Sam Raimi, Mark Webb all have been approached at one point or another to direct this movie. Can you imagine being so desperate to get a movie made that you not only go after the guy who made the best Spider-Man movie of all time, but you also go after the guy who made the worst Spider-Man movie of all time? I know that's not exactly fair to say to Mark Webb. I know that was out of his control, but still. In 2018, John Francis Daley and Jonathan Goldstein were tapped to write and direct the movie, only to then leave in 2019. At that point, Ezra Miller just decided to make his own pitch for the movie, teaming up with comic book great Grant Morrison to do his own adaptation of The Flash. Currently, Christina Hodson is writing the script for the solo Flash movie. She seems to be DC's go-to girl when it comes to getting scripts made, and Andy Muschietti of It fame is the current director attached to this movie. And that's really just the behind the scenes shuffling that we know about. That's not even getting into what the actual story of the movie is going to be. Initially, it was just going to be a standard solo Flash movie. Some point along the way, however, it turned into an adaptation of the comic book series Flashpoint. This is the reason why the whole Michael Keaton news is as big as it is, but we'll get back to that in a little bit. Over the past 6 years, with all the creative team changes and the shift in direction of the movie itself, it sort of makes you start to wonder just what the hell is going on at Warner Brothers. It's not like they're adapting some unknown superhero and want to make sure they get it right for all audiences to enjoy. This is the Flash we're talking about here. He might not have the same cultural clout as Batman, Superman, or Wonder Woman, but people know who he is. He's been a fixture of popular culture since the 60s.
Can it outrun the Flash?
You bet.
Can Superman outrun the Flash?
Sure, why not?
Hell, Warner Brothers has had a very popular version of The Flash playing on television since 2014. It's still ongoing. So it's certainly not the character's fault that this movie hasn't been made yet. Something must be going on behind the scenes that we don't know about. My guess is once it was decided that this movie was going to be based on Flashpoint, that's where a lot of the creative differences started to come into play. Because there's a lot you can do with a story like Flashpoint, and I'm sure every single creative team had a wildly different take on how to adapt it. Because there is a lot you can do with a story like this. Flashpoint is, at its core, a multiverse spanning story with a lot of time travel elements. The possibilities are endless. Of course, there was an animated version of Flashpoint released a few years ago that was more or less a faithful adaptation of the comic book source material. There are people who believe that this Ezra Miller version of Flashpoint will sort of act very similar to that animated movie and by extension, the comic book series, sort of act as a soft reboot to the cinematic universe into a new state. And the CW show also adapted Flashpoint in its own way. It was less concerned about the happenings of the greater DC universe and focused more on the initial concept of Barry Allen traveling back through time to save his mother's life and the ripple effect that that had. Of course, if you wanted to do Flashpoint as a big summer movie, you'd have to tailor it to fit the aesthetic of a big summer movie. And you'll probably want to throw in references and connections to other movies that Ezra Miller's Flash has been a part of. But that was a lot easier to do back in 2016. Over the past few years, the DC cinematic universe has changed so much, it's pretty much unrecognizable from when it started. Ben Affleck is no longer Batman. Zack Snyder's grimdark tone is no longer the mandate. Interconnectivity between movies is not a priority anymore. It's honestly surprising to me that Warner Brothers still intends to make a solo Flash movie. I mean, they've announced and then given up on other DC superhero films, and yet The Flash, for some reason, they still want to make. My only guess is that somebody made a promise to Ezra Miller that he's going to get his own solo superhero film, and now they intend to keep that promise any way they can. This was, of course, before word got out that Ezra Miller isn't above choking fans randomly, of course. But let's say that Christina Hodson and Andy Muschietti are the creative team to get this movie off the ground. I think it's fairly safe to say that at this point it will be based on Flashpoint and it will be a multiverse spanning story. It'll also probably have some time travel element to it because that always goes hand in hand with multiverse stories. It's been confirmed that Ray Fisher will be in the movie reprising his role as Cyborg from Justice League, which is good because I feel really bad for Ray Fisher. You don't hear a lot about him outside of these movies. It's nice to know he's working. And this is just my wild ass theory. I'm not basing this on any fact, but I think that Ezra Miller's cameo from the Crisis on Infinite Earths miniseries on the CW will tie into his Flashpoint movie in some way. They kind of hint at it.
You told Victor this was possible.
But the whole internet got to make even wilder theories last week when it was reported that Michael Keaton was in early talks to reprise his role as Batman from the Tim Burton films for this new Flashpoint movie. This is insane. No matter who you are, no matter whether or not Michael Keaton was your favorite Batman, no matter whether or not you even care about DC movies anymore, this is a big deal. Michael Keaton has not been Batman since the 90s, and he never really got a satisfying send-off to his version of the character. It must be stressed, however, that these are early talks. There are a lot of clickbaity headlines that are basically saying that he's coming back, but he's not. These are just early talks. There's nothing confirmed. They're so early, in fact, apparently there's a plan B in case they can't get Michael Keaton, and that plan B is Christian Bale, which is insane in its own way. Both of these seem like impossible gets. Both actors seem to be pretty comfortably done with playing Batman, and from a storytelling perspective, Christian Bale's Batman probably wouldn't work for the Flashpoint movie, but let's assume, for the sake of argument, that yes, Michael Keaton is signing on to be in the Flashpoint movie. Let's look at this logically. Michael Keaton will turn 69 years old this year. He will be the same age as my dad. No matter how good of a shape you're in, I don't think a 69-year-old suiting up in the bat suit like it's 1992 will work in 2020, or whenever this movie actually comes out. The one thing that's been consistent from website to website is that Michael Keaton's Batman is intended to be a mentor figure of sorts to Ezra Miller's Flash. But other than that, it varies wildly as to how that will exactly play out. On the one hand, you have websites saying that he's gonna be more of like the Kingdom Come Batman. On the other hand, you have some sites saying that he's actually gonna be Bruce Wayne from the Batman Beyond universe. And on the other hand, you have people saying that Michael Keaton's Batman is just gonna pretty much replace the Thomas Wayne Batman from the Flashpoint comic book series. And that sound you hear is thousands of Jeffrey Dean Morgan stans quivering in fear at the fact that all the fan art they've made over the years might be for nothing. And the rumors and speculations just keep spiraling out of control from there. You have some people saying that this will in fact lead to a Batman Beyond spin-off movie. You have others saying that Michael Keaton will replace Ben Affleck as the default DC Cinematic Universe Batman and that Robert Pattinson's Batman is going to be in a separate pocket universe a la Joker. But all we know is that Michael Keaton is in early talks to reprise his role as Batman. That's it. And yet, for some reason, the internet has lost its damn minds and is presenting every single fan theory as fact, even though we don't know anything. And this could all be for nothing. We might not even get Michael Keaton playing Batman or Bruce Wayne one more time. The Flash movie has changed hands so many times by this point, I would not be surprised if tomorrow they go in a completely different direction. And it's honestly surprising that Michael Keaton is even entertaining the possibility of returning as Batman. He only ever seemed interested in playing the character as part of a Tim Burton project. I know nowadays he's been more open about talking about being Batman. He'll even drop the odd "I'm Batman" line here and there to pop the crowd, and it still works.
I'm Batman.
But will it work again in a movie, even if it's just a cameo? I honestly don't know. At this point, I am firmly in the "I'll believe it when I see it" camp when it comes to this news story, because this sounds exactly like the kind of internet gossip that's easy to get swept up in without looking through all of the facts. Oh, your favorite Batman might be returning and he might be playing this version of Old Man Batman, or this version of Old Man Batman, or this version of Old Man Batman. The closest thing I can think of to something similar happening would be if Tobey Maguire or Andrew Garfield or Tom Holland appeared in the next Spider-Verse movie. That would be awesome, sure, but until it actually happens, it's just wishful thinking. I know the filmmakers have said they wanted to do it, but again, wanting to do something and actually doing it are two completely different things. They wanted to do it for the first Spider-Verse movie. Warner Brothers has shown the ability to pull something like this off on television. The aforementioned Crisis on Infinite Earths brought a lot of actors back to reprise their roles of different DC characters for quick cameos and whatnot, and it would stand to reason that they might want to try something like this for a movie. And in a movie, you gotta go bigger, and there's no bigger get than this. But until I see otherwise, like an official statement or a trailer, I'm not gonna get too excited about the idea of Michael Keaton returning to play Batman in a Flash movie. I mean, again, this movie was supposed to come out in 2018, but it's been delayed and delayed again and again for one reason after another. And honestly, if you ask me, this sounds like the kind of news that was leaked on purpose to get people to remain interested in the Flashpoint film. Of course, I'd be lying if I said I wouldn't be thrilled to see Michael Keaton play Batman in any capacity one more time, even if it is as a cameo in a Flash movie. That'd be pretty exciting to see. But at this point, I'm okay with him being Vulture now. The Batman part of his life is over. It's time to move on. But what do you think about Michael Keaton possibly maybe returning to play Batman, even if it is just in the Flashpoint movie? Do you think this is a good idea? Is this something you even want to see? Do you even care about the solo Flash movie at this point? Let me know down below or anywhere on the internet. If you want to know more about Flashpoint and why it's such a big deal, I'll have Amazon affiliate links in the description below to the original comic book series and also some comics featuring an old man Bruce Wayne or an old man Batman to give you an idea of what Michael Keaton could do with the role at his age. And of course, don't forget that we have new videos on this channel every single Tuesday and Wednesday, with Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern being Wulff Den Live. So subscribe to see all of that, like this video, and share it with a friend who needs a reason to be excited for a solo Flash movie. Maybe the idea of Michael Keaton coming back to play Batman will be just the thing they need. Unless, of course, Michael Keaton doesn't come back, in which case, this was all for nothing. But thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time.